the facts that the transgender community is using as far as detransition after teen years of treatment is a skewed result, but I don't believe it's being used corruptly. In other words, they don't understand what it means.
You are listening to the Law Enforcement Pirate Radio Network. Radio Free Larry presiding.
You can run, but you can't hide.
Radio Free Larry.
So, what the judge did, he tried to reverse the Republican argument that the parent should have the choice. So, what he's doing is, if you say the parent doesn't have a choice, it's the judge is corrupt. If you argue that the parents do not have a choice, they're going to argue the parents do not have a choice in the future when they get Democrats back in, if they do. There's no way to really know how many teens would detransition without those drugs, without going through the process, because the figures they use for detransition as an adult when they seek treatment in their teen years. And again, I will tell you, if a boy thinks he's a girl and a girl thinks he's a boy, if you want to seek counseling, fine, but you have to tell the child that their choices are valid until the child believes they're invalid. Which means you don't have you can disagree, but you have to honor the child's thought, or it can cause suicide. Right? So again, it's like any other psychological illness in the beginning days, because you have to work through it, and it is a psychological issue. I mean, I think it's in the DSM-5. It needs to be, if it's considered what it's considered. Well, there are causations, psychological causations, right, from implanted hysteria. That if you don't do it now, it's going to be a mess later. If you don't do it now, you'll go crazy and kill yourself. That's kind of stuff they're talking about online. I've never been there, but I've read about it. So the number that would detransition once they start taking drugs or getting surgery from, say, it takes a lot of bravery to do it. Once you start, let's say, 12, 14, even 16. They're talking the earliest they would detransition outside of their parents' control would be 18. Because it's just not the same thing as not taking those drugs. If you don't take those drugs and you go through years of detransition, right, it's not even going to be probably marked, because the transition will be shorter. Once you take hormones, and that's what we're speaking about. Once you take female hormones and puberty blockers, you're going to be a girl. That's just the way it works. If you take male hormones beyond a certain point, you have to actually take estrogen blockers, or stuff like that happens to you. Including, if you have estrogen, you're just going to be more feminine. Just a fact of life. So if you take too much test and it spills into estrogen, it screws you up and you have to go backwards and fix it. Bodybuilders won't tell you the truth. They don't want to lose their life and their livelihood and everything else. So the irreparable harm comes from taking those drugs. You could actually appeal it. Like, I would emergency appeal it. Only because Parents have, again, this hasn't been addressed. You'll see Munchausen by proxy in these parents, extreme Munchausen by proxy, like you've never seen before. So, I'm nothing against trans people at all, but as a child, they can't make that decision, especially these wacky mothers that are out there and wacky fathers. The damage is when you screw up puberty and adolescent, you can't go back. But if you wait 2 more years, you can reverse most of it. And again, you're saying the parent has a right to alter a child in that way, and next thing it's going to be surgery. It's just mission creep. It's not irreversible, especially in the puberty and adolescent years. Now, if you took, but they may have to take it the rest of their life. If you took a male enhancing hormones, it might work to restore it. It just depends how much damage, how your body responds. And that's the reality. Why we're not looking at the hormone makeup of a trans child? Because if a trans child has estrogen, if a trans child has weak hormones in certain areas, that's all they need to restore the birth. Now, some genital dysphoria, yeah, you may not work, but if you use male hormones to become male again, and no matter how much somebody tries to convince them they're a female, it probably won't work as well, if at all. Again, a lot of it is brainwashing. And nothing against transgender people. You exist. I realize you have existed and you will exist. They will never have a normal size male thing, sex organ if they start in their youth. That I could crush them for life. And then the women, it does something to their system similarly. Of course, they will grow breasts. They can't drink a beer, but they can cut their penis. So I guess they're not going that far. But essentially, it's chemical castration, like. Right? So again, that judge is just a whack. But they're being crafty. If you argue that the parent doesn't get to decide, again, parents sometimes can't decide. Again, Munchausen by proxy. And I don't think anybody's studied the hormones. I don't think either side cares to. So I thought she started a little earlier, but Blair White didn't. Kobach's answer is Blair White and people such as her that are like female models and didn't start hormone use till later in life, and then after that, some surgeries. And a child is just too impressionable. Again, the suicides most likely come from the hysteria around the whole thing. Well, a child doesn't have much going on in life a lot of times. And of course, we know adolescence and puberty, they have mood swings. So if I become the star because I become trans, then of course. If I lack self-esteem, if I feel kind of awkward, maybe this makes me feel accepted. You're playing around with young people's psychology, and that's been seen online. Right now, again, I agree with allowing the young person to express themselves, but nothing is irreversible. as long as the doctor tells you, to go in that direction. And I'm not a professional, so I can't tell you to let them express themselves. But I think psychologically, the suicides we're seeing, and again, it might be hysteria, but it exists. Child suicide, it doesn't make any sense, and neither does really most, if not all, suicide. But a lot of times it's peer pressure that causes the suicide. And again, in this case, adult pressure. There are adults telling children that their whole life will be wrecked if they don't get on hormones and have surgery before the age of 16, sometimes 14. So the figures that they use in the transgender world say, look, this is we're only talking about 2% transition. Well, if you're on hormones from age 14, you don't, the detransition success minimizes. So there's no reason to do it. There's probably no urge to do it at that point. Because what are you going to be? An unsuccessful male. Again, the argument is children, not adults. And they're trying to kind of paint this idea where there's no danger in transitioning as a child. It's just, to begin with, male hormones, and I don't know what the hormones are. And it isn't as simple as going, here's testosterone. There's tons of hormones, the endocrine system, they have to study that. There's probably a series of hormones to bring a trans child back if their mind moves in that direction. And your mind could shift your hormones. I've seen I guess, as far as we say, the animal kingdom, there are hormonal shifts in certain situations. If a young male is connected to a gay community and the other gay males are fantasizing about the gay male being a female, that could have some pretty far-reaching effects. I mean, deep state doesn't want you to know about anything that they're doing. But that's kind of stuff they do. And they're sick. Even if it's for investigation purposes, that's sick, all of you. That's why they get so out there in all of this. Because they're covering over their sickness. They want to put it on their victim like the typical narcissist, sociopath that they are. So again, Chris Kobach's argument requires him to go to adult transgender women and transgender males that are successful. Again, there's transgender males that look more male than any of us at this point. I mean, they're buff bodybuilders. Right. Or most of us, I guess. Thick beards. So again, I think the argument, and this is the way Hashem works, this is the way God works. If Chris Kobach wants a successful argument, he's got to go to adult transgender people and say, look, this person started when they were 18, this person started when they were 20, this person started when they were 25. Now, as far as suicide, I believe it's hysteria. And again, possession of the mind. If you're selected to be transgender on this planet and you don't transition, the demons attack your minds and possess you into suicide. I've seen it all, man. I'm the biggest seer that's ever been on this planet and the biggest seer that's ever going to be on this planet. As far as Hashem's concerned, case closed. Nobody else has to see anything here. Hashem being God. Well, you're all condemned. It's not Republican, it's not Democrat, it's all of you. And again, there are innocent people on this planet, and they won't suffer the consequences of the choices of this planet. So again, the figures they use for detransition, you got to remember that they're incorrect, because most people that have been on sex-changing drugs before 16 will not transition, because there's no successful life. The ones that do transition are very brave. And the ones that do speak out are very brave. Now, I'm the absoluteness of all of it, because some are anti-trans completely, and people make choices, and when they're adults, and I don't understand surgery. That seems a little extreme to me, but 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 again, people get surgery for all sorts of stuff. I got people who look like devils. Actually, the people that so there's this guy. Hashem shows me this article, and it's a woman and a man, and they do that body modification. And the one guy looks like a devil, and you listen to him, he's like, he doesn't seem like a bad guy. And Hashem says, no, he's not. He's not a devil. He just does that because the devils possess him to say, there's the devil. I'm in a church. I'm not a devil. Look at that guy over there with the tattoos and the horns. That's the devil. Where he's just a possessed person, where the devil's possessed him, so they can point the finger at him. Again, remember, in the end times, the whole thing is based upon deception and illusion and falsehood and fictitious teachings. So again, the judge is way off, because you can't make, again, his argument supports the other side, because the only thing you can't change is going through puberty and adolescence successfully, and then having a successful birth gender life. So again, if you want to appeal it, Kansas is going to need to go to, and again, Blair White will even testify for you. If you just lose the BS in the mind and just accept that some people are different, and you have your world, they have theirs. That would have been a perfect person to bring in there to testify, Blair White. She didn't transition until she's 20. She's had modeling gigs. It does have modeling gigs. And she's against transgender transitioning below a certain age. I think she was gay, but I'm not sure. Right. Well, it's just I mean, if you've been a transgender person since you were 12, some of these kids, maybe even earlier, some of them, you're not going to go back. I mean, the chances are so slim. Whereas if they held off a few years, some girl might think he's cute, some boy might think she's cute, and she loses the whole. That could be part of it. And I've brought this up before. People are being blocked from heterosexual relationships by this planet, and some people are doing it physically. I'm sure the young people have picked it up also. And there's a curse called, I've explained it over the years, they make you their bitch. And that's happening in our schools most likely. It's one of the things the deep state uses to change somebody's sexuality. They're not innocent at all. Well, I believe, like Erica Kirk, that how to get there is the question, but young people should marry. She doesn't have to marry at a young age to know that it would have been better. What if she met Charlie Kirk when she was 18? She'd been married a lot more years before that would happen. It may never have happened at that point. The only thing is, as far as Charlie Kirk, now, something happened on my screen here. Give me a second. listening to the FBI and DHS and everybody else that was warning them. That's where it came from. You're not being brave, and it is a bad thing that you can't freely appear places without worrying about being killed. But it's part of life. And again, his topics and the way he went about things angered people. I'm saying the same thing about the Islamic people. He was only right to a certain degree on certain issues. And then he would go into this thing where he would steer a conversation, and it frustrated people. And again, nobody has a right to take a gun up, but this is the psychology of why people take guns up. When they get frustrated beyond a certain point, and they, again, I don't agree completely with the author of the Staircase to Terror, but I agree with the Staircase to Terror. His point is it's strictly, if we were Marxists, that people wouldn't be terrorists. That's not true. If we gave everybody everything and equalized the world, there'd be no reason to do that. That's false. But the Staircase to Terror itself is valid as to why people kind of move up. But again, you have a larger number that don't move up the staircase. But again, the number that's moving up the staircase is much larger today. Even though they're not at the top, you'll see them at the third and I guess fourth step, as there's the fourth step at the top. Well, I think we need to arrange dating more than we do. Heterosexual dating. Of course, we don't want to arrange marriage, but I think we should be more like chaperone dating when they're younger type of thing. And I think that might straighten out some of this. I'm sure Eric Kirk would agree with me. They may have taken down the Charlie Kirk sign after I spoke about it. They think they're funny like that. But I have to get over there and look. I haven't seen it. It could be over there. Yeah, Deep State would have done it. Pay $1 million to take it down. All right, so the fifth floor is the top. So you'll see people go to the third and fourth floor very easily now, more so than they did before. That's why we have these windows of the fifth floor, which is sidestepping inhibitions and committing the act of terror. Well, there's a lot of data out there, and again, I understand that the Islamic people want all of it taken off the internet because it's Islamophobia, but it's not. These are large numbers of imams speaking things that really are criminal, and you could make a case for what do they call that, insurrection type things. I mean, they moved on overthrowing the Constitution. You're just not going to do that, and that's part of what's causing this. Well, the key is to stop your people from doing that, not hiding it like has happened. I guess the Biden administration hid it for years. And it, of course, goes back probably 20 years at least. Now, the Islamic community, to their credit, began policing their own till a certain point. And again, that's somewhere probably in the Obama administration. So again, we know what the psychology around it is. Israel's wrong when it's wrong, and it's right when it's right. Islam is wrong when it's wrong, and Islam is right when it's right. Why? Because it's not about Islam. It's not about Israel. It's about everything that's ever been here. You didn't just wake up one day as a millennial and figure it all out. You're just lunatics, radicalized by foreign spies and rich supremacists, Islamic supremacists, Latino supremacists. I've been in their communities. They're the worst there is. And there are others. White people probably have the least supremacist people in their societies. That's why you were able to do that for so many years. But it can't say that about Islam, can't say that about Latinos, and there are others. So when we look at default supremacist mindset at a lower level, it's much more widespread in the Latino community, in Islamic community. There's probably others that I'm not thinking about right now. We're talking about everyday people, how they feel and how they truly feel in their mind about supremacy and the people around them and what they should receive over everyone else. Here's an example. If I go to a black country, I'm going to find more rich black people than white people. Just the way it is. Again, United States is racist, but what are we doing? We're helping black people in Africa. We've been doing it for decades. Probably almost a century when it comes to feeding them. So I don't know what you're all talking about. It's all bullshit that you're projecting on the world, trying to change it into that BS that you articulate all day. Again, the Islamic shooter may have come from Islamic people that were obsessing over something like that. Could be Congress people too that aren't even Islamic. Oh, if they keep speaking like that, there's going to be a shooter. And then everybody wills it. And then it happens. So again, we'll get back to the main topic here. If you give young people sex-changing drugs, they will not realize their true desire by 18. The majority will stay with that new sex. It's a scientific principle that somewhere in an adolescent or pubescent life, there will be thoughts about gay. And now it looks like it's trans. It moved further. Again, being a receptor without the protections as far as metaphysics goes would cause that also. Because when they're in their that's why they can be willed to have sex a lot easier. That's why there's protections. Physical protections, because the metaphysical protections do not exist. Psychological protections do not exist at the level. Like the young girl that committed suicide, she said, I didn't know what to do. That's a really weird case. But again, it's not as weird as it is readable. He obviously was possessed, not just simple sex drive. Now, what the ins and outs of that, she was a very successful child. People were jealous. They hated on her. It's what happened to Marilyn Monroe in reality. But, she was a wrestler. She was doing this, doing that. So when the guy that did it's like, yeah, go kill me. I'll give you my address. He'll dox himself and come kill me. I won't stop you. So again, that's an indication of momentary possession. They call it a crime of passion, whatever it is. But it's he was possessed into it. So it was probably a combination of things. Right? He was hated on, then she was hated on. They met each other, and then that happened. Now she's taken out of the way because people that hated her feel much better. They're walking around smiling, and one day they'll work in the FBI, CIA, and Marshal Service, and they'll go very far because they'll be deep state. That's how it works. Well, stay peaceful. Praise God and all.